Hi, kiddos. Here comes chapter 6 of Scumble. So when we last left, when we last left off, Ledge had tried to distract Sarah Jane by kissing her, and it worked. She didn't go down to where the reception was. However, she punched him twice. Um, so anyway, funny part, but hopefully we'll go on to some more exciting parts as well today in chapter 6. Here we go. All right. So I sucked in air, ignoring the clang of my pulse as I tried to convince myself that there were worse things than Sarah Jane Cabot having the ancient peanut butter jar. After all, there were hundreds more jars down in the barn right now. The entire family had brought their souvenirs of Grandma Dollop, and not just for the wedding. Why are we taking these? I'd asked Dad as he loaded the collection of jars into the van. I'd helped him haul the box up from the basement, then watched as Mom dusted and tested each of them, filling the kitchen with news, music, and old-time radio shows. Dad and I had listened twice to the goosebump-raising, sauerkraut-scented call of Bobby Thompson's historic home run against the Brooklyn Dodgers. Dad had wanted to keep that one. Mom packed it anyway. It was your Aunt Jenny's suggestion to bring along the jars, Dad suggested as he wedged the box into the van. Such a perfect idea, too, Mom sighed as she added the extra Gatorade to the cooler. Leave it to Jenny to know just the thing to do. Surrounding your grandpa with all of Grandma's jars will give him great comfort in his last days. What do you mean, last days? Fedora demanded, yanking off her helmet. Grandpa's grown so frail, honey, Mom explained, using her thumb to wipe jelly from the downturned corners of my sister's mouth. Grandpa's been living with Aunt Jenny and her family ever since Grandma died. But he decided long ago that he wants to be at the ranch when he passes on. Passes on? Fee's eyebrows drew together. Before he dies, Fedora, Mom told her gently. Sitting alone in the glade, I swallowed hard, knowing how dead I was going to be when Mom learned I'd lost Grandpa and Grandma's wedding jar. Not just Mom. Everyone would be mad. How could I stick to the rule to keep quiet when I'd let slip one of the few savvy objects that made so much noise? A mosquito buzzed in my ear. Fireflies lit all around me, despite being rare in Wyoming. Grumpy with the bugs, I just pulled myself to my feet, betting Uncle Audrey had sent them to check on me. The evening sky held a lingering glow, bright enough for me to see the pages of Sarah Jane's notebook where she'd dropped it. I picked up the notebook and jammed it in my pocket, leaving no trace of our wedding crasher behind. Stomping my feet, I followed Audrey's trail of fireflies, careful to leave a wide berth between me and the bug house as I passed it. Knocking the door off the conservatory and setting free 100,000 bugs would only make my lousy day 100,000 times worse. It was bad enough when my zipper blasted into tiny metal XYZ pieces halfway down the path, and I found my good Sunday church pants down around my ankle. With dirt staining the front of my shirt and my necktie tied around my middle to keep my pants up, I stood outside the barn's open doors, staring in. Streamers hung from every rafter in thick rainbow-colored webs. There was a dance floor in the center of the room, and folding chairs and tables filled the rest of the space. The evening air was cool, yet I was drenched in sweat. I was angry. But something else was wrong. My skin itched like mad. There was a jackhammer inside my head, and my stomach twisted into nauseating knots. Gypsy danced near the newlyweds. Her fluff-headed cheer set my teeth on edge. Watching her spin and twirl in a one-person jitterbug made my stomach start to churn even worse. But as she chatted and laughed to the empty space in front of her, I realized that she must be dancing with the ghostly, invisible Samson. For the first time ever, I envied Samson Beaumont. If I were invisible, Mom wouldn't know that I'd ruined my clothes skidding to catch the falling jar. I wouldn't have to be Ledge, the not-so-supersonic runner, or Ledge, the have-to-be-perfect kid all the time. I could be anyone I wanted to be, because nobody would be watching. People talked and laughed over the music rising from the back of the barn, where Grandma Dollop's jars took up 2 entire tables to themselves. Stacked higher than the 3-tiered wedding cake nearby, the jars stood in towering spires. Marisol and Mesquite were already cutting and serving the cake, shouting "Incoming!" as they levitated pieces across the room. Each plate bobbed in front of one of the guests until he or she took it with a laugh and a salute to the twins. A festival stream of smiling blue sparks hissed past me like a firecracker, nearly making me jump out of my skin. I spotted Rocket leaning against a beam nearby, smiling awkwardly behind a scruffy beard, looking like a kid pretending to be a grown up as he set off celebratory sparks. He called out to Fedora as she ran past him in her bobbling helmet. "Hey, Fee, I like your lid." "Safety first," Fedora called over her shoulder as she dashed away, playing chase with Bitsy and our youngest cousin Tucker, who followed Rocket, Fish, Mibs, Samson, and Gypsy as the last kid in the big Beaumont family. "Oh, guys, that's Mibs' new baby brother, then, Tucker. The one that we found out that Mama was going to have a baby at the end of Savvy. That's the new baby. It's Tucker." So Rocket shook his head with a laugh, his dark fork and socket hair defying physics the way only spiky-maned cartoon characters ever truly achieved. "Rocket! Oh, dear!" Rocket straightened his posture, brushed off his shirt, and searched for an exit as my mom approached, looking him up and down. Eyeing his shaggy hair and beard, Mom made a full array of mother hen noises. With Dinah for a mother, my own hair hadn't touched the tops of my ears once in my life. Now, seeing the way she fussed over Rocket, I stepped farther back into the shadows out of the barn, hoping to delay the lecture I was bound to get when she saw my dusty shirt and ruined pants. "You've always been such a good-looking boy, Rocket," Mom started in. "Now look at you. It's no wonder you don't have a date for your own brother's wedding. Where's that Meeks girl? Didn't she come?" "She could have stood in as your date, just like old times." Running a hand through his untamed hair, Rocket saw Mom smile and took a step back, looking around for help. "It's no wonder things didn't work out between you and Bobby Meeks," Mom went on. "A girl wants a cheerful, clean-cut beau, not a moody caveman. What you need to do is to go into town tomorrow and get yourself a—" "Aunt Dinah, stop!" Rocket's blue eyes flashed, and he flushed red behind his beard, quickly plugging his ears like a first grader, singing an off-key la 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 to drown out my mom. I'd tried the same move enough times to know it wouldn't work. Earplugs, loud music, headphones, drowning out Mom's voice only weakened her control, but it rarely stopped her altogether. "I'm not a kid anymore," Rocket continued loudly, fingers still crammed in his ears. "If you're so old," Mom continued her assault, "why do you continue to haunt this ranch like a stubborn child refusing to go home at the end of summer camp? You need to—" "Aunt Dinah, it's so good to see you." Rocket's sister Mibs broke in, coming to Rocket's aid. Maybe if I'd had ink on my skin up in the glade, Mibs could have heard my screaming thoughts and saved me from Sarah Jane. A scribble, a note, a tattoo, even a stray jot from a marker on your skin, and Mibs Beaumont could read your mind. Just one more awesome savvy that I could have gotten, but didn't. Jabs of anger jabbed at me. 10,000 ants in icy soccer cleats raced up and down my arms. My fingers and palms itched with a horrible tingling sensation. "What happened to you, Ledge?" I'd been watching the scene between Mom and Rocket so intently, I hadn't noticed Mib's boyfriend, Will, as he stepped outside the barn. "Wow, Ledge, did you butt heads with a buffalo or what?" "Something like that," I muttered. I'd met Will Meeks before. He was an ordinary guy without a savvy. He'd only been a teenager himself when he and his sister Bobby first got mixed up with the Beaumonts and learned the family secret. I looked down at my ragged appearance, comparing it to the put-together buttons and service ribbons on Will's crisp, clean army uniform. I doubted Will had ever made a mistake, been humiliated, or done the wrong thing once in his life. Then again, he had the luxury of being normal. "What are you doing out here?" I asked him after a pause. I was surprised when Will shuffled his feet, getting dust on his spit and polished shoes. I thought it might be safer for me to avoid your mom tonight. When I asked your cousin to marry me, I want her to know I did it without Auntie Dinah making me." "You're going to ask Mibs to marry you?" My stomach took a water coaster plunge. The ants still swarming beneath my skin began to bite. I scratched the palms of my hand, digging my nails in hard, stopping just short of drawing blood. If Mibbs and Will got married, they'd need Grandma's peanut butter jar, just like Fish and Melly. Great Aunt Jules had said it earlier. The wedding jar was tradition. The sick feeling in my stomach rose into my throat. I should have chased after Sarah Jane, I thought to myself, vibrating with anger. I should have tried harder to go get that jar back. Yo, Ledge, incoming! Marisol and Mesquite called out. I turned to see an enormous piece of frosted cake ducking and weaving full speed through the crowd. When the cake stopped in front of me, I ignored it, but the twins were persistent. The edge of the plate bumped against my shoulder once, twice, 3 times. Are you going to eat that? Will asked, one eyebrow raised as he watched the plate of cake carom into me. If Will hadn't been standing there, I might have grabbed the plate and thrown it back at the twins like a frisbee. Not wanting to look like a jerk, I reached for it instead, but my fingers closed on air. Glancing inside at Marisol and Mesquite, I could see them laughing. In seconds, the plate was back, jabbing me again, making my blood pressure skyrocket. I made another grab and missed again, only to see the plate coming back fast, really fast. The marble cake cannonball hit me in the chest, the force of the twins' blow pushing me backwards, covering the front of my grubby shirt in crumbs and frosting. The buzz beneath my skin began to multiply. Hey guys, I'm going to stop right there for a second. I hope you notice that again and again. Again and again, the author's telling us he's got this strange itchy feeling in his arms and his hands, and then that buzz beneath his skin is beginning to multiply. As a reader, you want to make sure you notice when the author kind of gives you those hints over and over and over again. Something's coming, and it keeps on building. So it says, I'm going to go back to the story now, and I want you to keep listening for that and see if our prediction is right. The buzz beneath my skin began to multiply. I wiped at the frosting plastered to my shirt, letting a loud barrage of barnyard language rip. After a full minute of noisy cussing, I looked up, realizing that the rest of the world had gone much too quiet. Everyone inside the barn stared out at me through the open doors. Someone had stopped the music. Behind the others, Marisol and Mesquite choked with silent giggles, covering their mouths with their hands and bending over double. Embarrassed and fuming, I began to pull myself up off the ground, but rising to one knee, I was hit by a sudden wave of dizziness. Unable to stand up without my stomach threatening rebellion, I stayed down. Something was happening. The tingling feeling that had started in my fingers and palms spread into my back and my chest. It surged through all my limbs. My teeth buzzed inside my skull, vibrating like I'd downed 6 pops and 7 pounds of sour sugar candy, but the taste in my mouth was metallic and not sweet. I felt like the boy on the boat in Aunt Jenny's painting, trying to weather a stormy sea, only this time when my savvy let loose, it hit the barn with the destructive force of a tidal wave. Metal folding chairs flew to pieces, tables wobbled and then collapsed, crashing and spilling plates and glasses everywhere. The jar tables went down in a deafening explosion of shattering glass. Metal lids rolled away like giant coins as polka tunes. Country ballads, ball games, and love songs jammed the air with the din of a radio factory being hit by a rocket. Then the entire barn started to come apart. When the first heavy beam fell, lurching from its fittings as nails and studs popped free, the party dissolved into chaos. People shouted, Bitsy barked. The twins levitated Grandpa Bomba outside in his overstuffed chair. Grandpa held on tight and let out a thin woohoo whoop as the barn doors fell off their hinges just as he flew through them. Mom and Dad tried to grab me, to drag me out of the way of the falling debris, while others tugged my sleeves or pulled at my collar. But crouched where I was outside the barn, I couldn't move. I was an anvil, hardened steel and hard to budge, heavy with the weight of what was happening around me. The understanding that I had a powerful savvy, after all, hit me like a hammer blow. It wasn't just watches and windshield wipers that needed to look out. It was the whole wide world. All right, that's the end of chapter 6. Our prediction was right. There was something coming. The author kept sprinkling hints throughout the whole chapter of something's coming. And so, as good readers, we want to watch that and start to feel that tension build. And then, kablam, he blew apart the whole barn. Oh my goodness, I wonder what happens next. We'll see in the next chapter.